Hi folks, CodeTutor here and my name is Anil Deshpande. In the previous video you have seen how to do a static code analysis and linting, and if you are trying to learn CI/CD, that is continuous integration and continuous deployment, there are a lot of other things that you have to take care and prepare your code base for before you actually write the CI/CD script. I am pretty sure you might have come across wherein the application is building perfectly fine in your IDE on your machine, but however, as soon as somebody else checks out that particular code in your team, something starts failing. So flaky builds is a major problem and it is something that needs to be addressed. So let me show you what do I mean by flaky build. This is our Android application. Let me show you the module settings. Right now I am using Java SDK version 11, and let me create a APK file. So generate a signed APK file. Don't worry about how this is being done if you are seeing it for the first time, but this is how I am generating a APK file, which is a debug file. And if you see, this file got created here, and that is nothing but this APK file. And let us see what is the SHA 256 sum of this particular APK file. That is basically like knowing what is the fingerprint of your APK file. So let me copy the path to this particular file and open the terminal, and I can write SHA sum -a 256 path of the APK file. So this is your fingerprint of this particular APK. Now, if you change the code base, even if you alter one single line in the code base, this value will change. But I will show you that even if you don't change any single line in your code base and just the JDK version changes, then that itself can create a issue. So what I will do is I will go back here, go to the module settings, and here instead of 11 I will make it 17. Yeah, and now let me once again generate the APK file. I will create the same debug file. It will take some time, and you can see that it creates a .apk file again here. And now let me run the same command. You can see that the SHA values are not matching. I did not even change the code, I just changed the JDK. So some of your teams were working on JDK 11 and they checked out, and you had done it on 17, then whatever the APK file that you are generating, it doesn't even have a same fingerprint. So how do you ensure that this doesn't happen? And when you sync your build Gradle, there are no transitive updates of the dependencies. That should not happen. How do you ensure all of that? It can be done using something called as locking your dependencies, and that is what we will explore, how it is supposed to be done. So let me just undo the changes that I had done earlier. The first thing that you have to do as a part of your Gradle locking is you have to list down all your libraries, plugins, dependencies in a separate file called as TOML file. TOML basically stands for Tom's Obvious Minimal Language File. I will show you how it actually looks like. This will have to be created in the Gradle folder. So let me create a file called as libsversion.toml. It basically contains the metadata of all your libraries and dependencies. I have copy pasted a sample content in this particular file, but don't worry, I will basically walk you through what does this actually contain. Let me go to the top. If you see here, we have the declaration of various libraries and the version that they are supposed to use. This is like a centralized repository of all your libraries versions. And then if you come down, this contains the declaration of all those libraries and the version reference. Version reference is basically what the version reference that you have declared here above. That is what this particular version reference is. And we would be grouping them based on certain standard set of package names that they come under. For example, Android Core KTX comes under Android Core. Android X lifecycle is another group. And in the same way, if you come down, we have grouped all the different libraries based on what are they related about. And then plugins, and finally we are writing all the different bundles. Once this is done, we will have to start updating our build Gradle files using the references to the declaration that we have done in the TOML file. What do I mean by that? Let me open the build Gradle file. Right now it looks like this, but instead of that I will write alias libs.plugins.android.application. This is now coming from your libs.versions.toml file, and then apply false. And in the same way, I can basically replace all the remaining things. Then we also will have to decide what will be JDK toolchain version. So for that, there is another set of configurations that you can add. All projects are supposed to use Java 11, JVM toolchain 11, and Kotlin toolchain 11. So with this, you are basically now configuring that your application is supposed to use Java 11 and nothing else. And what about the sub projects? That sub projects are supposed to get locked with Gradle logs. Don't worry about what it means. I will be showing you how to generate a Gradle log file in a moment. Now let me open the other build.gradle file. This also needs to be updated in a similar way because this still contains a lot of old hard-coded dependencies. This should be replaced with references to the things that we have here in the TOML file. So let me come back here. Let me just replace this. So let me just give you a quick recap of what we did. We created the TOML file containing the metadata of all the libraries. Then we referenced and refactored our root build.gradle file with references to the information that is there in the TOML file, and then fixed the Java version to be 11, and then added something like lock configuration. We will come to this a bit later. And then the build.gradle file, it uses references to TOML file. You can see that references to the TOML file content. Now we will have to generate the log files. There are two files that we need to generate. One is settings Gradle log file and another one is applications build Gradle log file. Now let me open the terminal. Here let me execute a command Gradle dependencies write logs. When I execute this, it basically creates a file called as settings gradle.log file. This basically contains the configuration for this particular application which logs the Gradle settings file. If you see its content, this is how it actually looks as of now, not much. But there is another file that we will have to generate, which is app dependencies write logs. This is another new command that we are executing, and when we execute this, it generates another log file, that is gradle.log file. This basically contains all the configurations that you need to lock your applications repository to these specific library versions and Gradle plugin versions. So once you have done this, time to clean the application. Yeah, it's working fine. And then now let me try to assemble the debug. That is basically I'm trying to build it. And if everything is done right, this should work perfectly fine. Perfect. So let me just give you a quick recap of what we did. First, we created a TOML file. We updated the root build Gradle file and the applications build Gradle file with reference to the TOML file. And then we wrote commands to generate settings Gradle log file and Gradle log file. All you will have to do is commit these things to the repo, and then whenever any of your teammates check out that particular application codebase and try to build, Gradle will ensure that all the appropriate dependencies are downloaded and application builds as per that particular versions of the JDK and Gradle dependencies. So this tells you how to lock your repository for a particular set of dependencies. But we have to explore two more minor aspects. That is, what if you want to update the version? How do I take care of that? Because now with this particular Gradle log file added, it is not as simple as just updating the version number in the build.gradle files. You will have to go through certain steps. That is one part. The second part is, what if I want to add a new library? Because as you are building the application, you might come across a situation that you have to introduce a new library as a dependency. So in that case, how this thing will work. So those two aspects I will show you in the next video. That brings us to the end of this particular video. Don't forget to like, comment, share the video and subscribe to the channel. Take care. Bye.